Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marcy Friedman, and I have the pleasure of being the newly minted JCC president. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to welcome you to the 2020 JCC Sports Award Dinner. Thanks for coming. I am so happy to have you here at the center and those that are viewing online. As you might imagine, this has been a challenging year at the JCC, and I am thrilled to share that our building is vibrant and open for our members and community. We are back. Tonight, we recognize and honor a most deserving group of individuals. We are thrilled that they have all accepted our invitation to be permanently honored on the Katz JCC Sports Wall of Fame and to join our past honorees. I'd like to take a moment to recognize two outstanding community leaders, Andy Levin and Jason Ravitz. Your leadership and dedication to this event is admirable, and on behalf of the Board of Directors, we thank you and your outstanding committee for all the hard work. We know it was not easy, but you have far exceeded our expectations. You have my sincerest appreciation and admiration. Please stand to be recognized. I would also like to thank Brian Adler and our staff here for the JCC, who are working tireless in coordinating all the events and their details. Tonight's event is a time to think about the children in our community. They are our future. Proceeds from this evening's event will benefit many of those in need, whether they are seeking nutritional counseling, programs for special needs children in our fitness center, or purchasing adaptive equipment for our aquatics program. These dollars are vital to the success of the Katz JCC. Now in our 24th year on the new campus, the Katz JCC is a vibrant social service agency that provides so much to those in our community. Whether it is eating lunch at our congregate meal program for older adults, participating in our Ahad basketball program for special needs teens and young adults, riding in a buggy through our elaborate early childhood center, or attending the largest Jewish day camp in North America, the Katz JCC is truly the center of our community. I am proud to serve as its president and look forward to all that the future brings. I'd like to take a moment to welcome other community leaders that are here this evening, and thank you for joining us, both live and online. It is now my pleasure to welcome Jillian Schwecke, who recently had her bat mitzvah, and she will be leading us in the Star-Spangled Banner and Hatikva. Please rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Kolot balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulfatem mizrach kadima ayin letzion Sophia Olafta tikvatenu hatikva bat shnot alpayim liot am chofshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim liot am chofshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim.
That was a wow. Thank you so much, Jillian. We appreciate you coming tonight to join us. For the past 6 years, we have come to rely on Mark Zumoff to provide entertainment, guidance, and enthusiasm at this event. We are thrilled that he agreed to join us again and appreciate your time. Mark, take it away.
Marcy, thank you. Marcy, before you go, what is your new grandson going to call you? Mom. Mom. A first-time mom, ladies and gentlemen. As some of you may know, I am the co-chair of the Maccabi USA Golf Tournament. It's an annual event, and this year it was supposed to be held in June. And we're having one of those Zoom meetings during the pandemic in April, and as a committee we decided, you know what, let's postpone it and we'll do it again next year. And one of our committee members said, I think we should try to have it in October. And we said, okay. Meanwhile, we're saying to ourselves, it's April. We're just starting a pandemic. There's no way we're going to be able to raise money for this golf tournament. As it turns out, we not only had our tournament in October, we raised a record amount of money. And the reason I'm saying that is when you call on the Jewish community, even in the midst of a pandemic, they have been able to respond. You folks are a great example of that. I do believe you should put your hands together and really give yourselves a warm round of applause. Speaking of people who have stepped up, and hold your applause as I go through this impressive list, we want to thank our big-time sponsors, Jason Ravitz from the Ravitz Family Foundation. Platinum medal sponsors include Andy Levin from MHS Lift, Tom Aristone from Pom Pom, Jacinda Reyes from Trinity Packaging, Coca-Cola, and of course all the supporters throughout the evening. Please give these folks a round of applause as well. We really appreciate their patronage. And now, ladies and gentlemen, making our first honorary presentation, please meet and greet the CEO and President of Pom Pom, Tom Aristone. Tom, come on up.
Thank you, Mark. We are so happy to have you with us again for this wonderful night. Each year, the Sports Award Dinner Committee invites people in the community to nominate an honoree for the People's Choice Award. This year, the Sports Award Dinner Committee undertook this entire process unto themselves and decided upon Brett and Amy Breslow. Brett and Amy grew up in Pennsylvania and were both born at Albert Einstein Medical Center, a little over a year apart. Their families belonged to synagogues that were less than 2 miles from each other. Amy's family belonged to Beth Shalom, and Brett's family belonged to Aduth Jeshurun, both in Elkins Park, PA. Although they grew up so close to one another, they didn't meet until they were in their early 20s. Amy wasn't active in sports activities as a child, but was very involved in youth organizations such as USY and BBYO, where she learned the value of giving back to the community. After high school, Amy attended the University of Pittsburgh and then pursued a master's of social work at the University of Pennsylvania. Excuse me, I have a little cold here. After high school, Brett enlisted in the Navy. He served as an electrician's mate aboard the USS Proteus, supplying and repairing fast-attack nuclear submarines in Guam. While there, he took up boxing. After 2 years overseas, he transferred and completed his enlistments on USS Gallant, where he serves as the ship's intercommunications electrician and surface sheave rescue swimmer during Operation Desert Storm. Brett, we thank you for your service to our country. Brett graduated from college with a degree in electrical engineering and found work at Lockheed Martin. Amy started a counseling practice of her own here in Cherry Hill. Before they knew it, their children Jack and Grace were born, and they fell in love with the South Jersey community. Brett and Amy both have volunteered in multiple aspects at Bethel and the JCC over the years. Brett became the president of Bethel's Young Associates, proceeded to cook latkes during Hanukkah for years to follow, and also served on the main sanctuary committee during Bethel's transition to Voorhees. Amy served as the president of Early Childhood Parent Teachers Association and played an active role in Bethel's Sisterhood Committee. Earlier this year, Brett unfortunately became the first person to walk into Cooper University Hospital with COVID-19, and his battle in the ICU became the fight for his life. During the 19 days that he was incubated, it was Amy that showed determination, dedication, and hard work in getting out the word about the need for convalescent plasma donors. She found herself alone and empowered to reach out for help. At first, she reached out into our community, and that quickly expanded into the tri-state area, and then soon across the country. Oh, there they are. Brett's determined fight carried him through to his miraculous recovery and release from the hospital. What started as a denial of the virus has now led Brett and Amy's dedication to education, advocacy, and determination. Brett and Amy have demonstrated a determination and fortitude in their fight for survival, and we are so glad to recognize them and are thrilled to bestow them with this year's People's Choice Award. Brett and Amy are joining us this evening from their home in Cherry Hill, and Brian has promised me that he will drop off this award to you both. Brett and Amy Breslow.
Hello, and good evening, everyone. Amy and I are just thrilled to receive the 2020 People's Choice Award at South Jersey's only Jewish Sports Awards dinner. This evening hits a home run with one of our family's core values, tzedakah. Involvement in youth sports meant so much to me and my family while growing up. It's how my parents kept me out of trouble. During these activities, without even realizing it, kids are learning life lessons from their teammates and coaches, while also getting some exercise and burning off some energy. On March 20th of this year, I became the first person to walk into Cooper University Hospital with COVID-19. They immediately put me on a ventilator and moved me to the ICU. When I awoke 19 days later, a nurse, all dressed in PPE, was holding up a tablet with my wife and kids crowded together in front of the camera for a FaceTime call. I was very confused, but happy to be alive. Amy told me that she was okay, and that she and the kids were taken care of, and that I should focus on getting better. Selflessness, caring, motivation, dedication, determination, and the value of hard work are just a few things that one learns as a kid when playing youth sports. It was all of you who selflessly jumped in and cared for my family, worked hard to make sure that they had what they needed, and helped to get the word out about the need for convalescent plasma. I'm humbled by your caring, loving support. We're forever grateful, but not at all surprised for your kindness and generosity. As so many of you told me over the last 25 years, as we've become friends and neighbors, it's what we do. Events like this one are an investment in our future of the community and all the communities that these kids are going to grow up and be a part of. Thank you to the committee members who worked so hard on putting this event together despite COVID-19. Thank you for this award, but more importantly, thank you for continuing to give to this cause.
While this is really surreal, what a year it has been, I would like to thank Jason Ravitz, Andy Levin, Brian Adler, the Katz JCC, and the entire Sports Dinner Committee for this recognition. I feel grateful and blessed to live in this supportive community. The support and love I felt from all of you has gotten me through the last 7 months. There are so many friends, ladies, you know who you are, to thank that it would be impossible for me to list everyone, but I do want to recognize several people. Jack and Grace, our kids, you are my rock. I'm so proud of both of you and how you handled this year with such strength. Linda and Eric Newman, Phyllis and Larry Schachter, you got me through some dark days. Linda and Larry, thank you for being my plasma committee. Through all of your efforts, we finally got plasma to come to South Jersey, and even though Brett did not need it, there are many others that did receive it, and they are grateful for your efforts. Jennifer Apel, thank you for helping me navigate our state government and writing a heartfelt letter on Brett's behalf. Susan Levin, thank you, and the Cooper Foundation for all of your support with our iPad fundraising efforts to connect families to their loved ones in the hospital during this isolating time. We've raised $11,000 plus so far. And Lynn Golden Paul, thank you for your assistance with the Red Cross. What a love you are. You have my heart. Jeffrey Nash, thank you for being a freeholder of the people by setting up test sites and assisting us with our plasma flight. And Jason Ravitz, you were there for me through some of the worst of it, and unfortunately, I was there for you. Your father would be so proud of you. I will never forget your kindness. And to Brett, my love, you are here. That's all that matters. We got to celebrate 29 years together on Saturday. Here's to the next 29. And thank you all so very much.
Amy and Brett, quite a story. Thank you so much for that. Anybody here know what a phone book is? Older people. How about younger people? Raise your hand. Who does not know what a phone book is? All right, there's a smattering here. So suffice it to say, I'm about to introduce someone who would actually come after me in a phone book. See, I'm ZU and he is ZW. Anyway, he is here now to present the David Back Memorial Maccabi Award. Please welcome the South Jersey Maccabi Chair, Evan Zwieben. Evan, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. Since 1993, the David Back Award has been given annually to a South Jersey athlete who exhibits strong leadership qualities on and off the field of competition. The recipient also maintains a strong sense of Jewish identity, thereby serving as a positive representative of their family, local delegation, and community. Melody Diaz is a longtime member Maccabi athlete, beginning her career in 6th grade as a participant in a Mid-Atlantic Junior Maccabi Games. Her experience led to friendships all over New Jersey. She then made her JCC Maccabi Games debut while in 8th grade in Orange County, California. She quickly made friends with her roommate and met other teens from all over the globe, from Toronto to Israel, throughout the week. The following year, Melody headed down to Atlanta to represent Team South Jersey and came home with a silver medal in tennis. This past summer would have been Melody's 3rd set of games, but the program was unfortunately canceled due to the global pandemic. To Melody, life is more than tennis. She has been involved in South Jersey BBYO since 8th grade. Melody is extremely involved in her chapter as she's currently serving as a programming coordinator. Melody currently serves as the varsity captain for Eastern High School's tennis team and is a regular volunteer at the Voorhees Pediatric Facility. Melody, we are so proud of all of your accomplishments on and off the courts. We are excited to recognize you as this year's David Back Memorial Maccabi Award honoree. Please don't get your award.
I am truly humbled to accept an award that honors a caring, dedicated, and friendly person like David Back. He was a pillar of this community and loved by all. I began playing in the junior Maccabi games in the 6th grade. I made friends all over New Jersey and won my first tennis medal, a bronze. The next year, my dad and I drove up to Pennsylvania. I won a silver, but I was ecstatic that I made another new friend. I knew that I wanted to play in the Maccabi games when I was old enough. My sophomore summer, I flew to California without my family. At first, I was terrified because I did not know anyone. Within 20 minutes at the airport, I met my roommate, Hannah, and felt completely at home. Throughout the week, I made friends from almost every delegation, from Toronto to Israel. To this day, I keep in contact with several players from Toronto, have a best friend in Boston, and friends waiting to meet me in Chicago for college. My friend Carly and I both won gold medals that year, hers for singles and mine for doubles. And together we celebrated until my delegation had to leave. The next year, I was even more excited to go. My roommate Bryce and I stayed with an incredible family in Atlanta. I made even more international friends and got the opportunity to see old ones. I won a silver medal, and I gained a lifetime of memories. Although I did not get to go to my last Maccabi, I have friends that keep the spirit alive. I would not be here tonight without the aid and support of many amazing people in this room. Thank you to Brian Adler for your help throughout this entire process. I really couldn't have done it without you. Thank you to Brian Lentine for coming to every single one of my matches last year at the Maccabis and standing by my side to get my medal. Thank you to all the friends that I met because of the Maccabi games for showing me while we come from very different places, we all share the same ruach. Thank you to my sister Kara and my brother Ben for pushing me to do my best. And of course, thank you to my wonderful parents for taking me to every tennis game and practice, and for making it possible for me to attend the Maccabi games in the first place. Thank you so much, everyone.
Congratulations, Melody. Well done. Melody, thank you for this. I appreciate it. It is now my pleasure to introduce our event co-chair representing Platinum sponsor MHS Lift. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Andy Levin.
Good evening. When we began discussing this event a few months ago, one of the first thoughts went to Steve Ravitz. Steve and the Ravitz family were early supporters of this event a little over 10 years ago, and Steve was particularly proud that Jason had taken such a meaningful leadership role. He would often call into the JCC and thank them for including his family in an event that honors so many dedicated people in our community. Jason, it's been my pleasure to work with you so closely this year, and you continue to honor your family's legacy by your dedication and commitment to this event and the Katz JCC. Thank you for being my partner. When thinking about the Lifetime Achievement Award for this year and our past recipients, we saw these honorees as true pillars of our community. The late Lewis Katz, Jeff Brown, Casey Isdaner, Donna Rose, to name a few. Steve was also that pillar. The Katz JCC, a longtime recipient of Steve's time, expertise, and philanthropy, suggested that this was a good year to immortalize Steve in a way that epitomized his relationship to the center and the community. We discussed naming this prestigious award in his memory, and with his family's blessing, we are proud to share that this and all future sports award dinners will be recognized as the Steve Ravitz Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you to Jason, Sean, Brett, Remy, and David for allowing us to remember Steve in this way. We shared our intentions to make this profound change at our first committee meeting. When we began discussing a short list of deserved honorees, thank you to the Sports Award Dinner Committee for making the recommendation that the first recipient of this award would be none other than Steve himself. I feel honored to be presenting this award. My family goes way back with the Ravitz family. My father grew up directly next door to Steve and his family back in the Northeast. My dad remembers babysitting him when he was a young boy. My brother Brett and Sean were close friends back in high school. But what makes this extra meaningful, though, for me, is this gives me an opportunity to repay an act of kindness I wish I hadn't had a chance to repay for many years. 6 years ago, when my mother-in-law, Susan Asbell, passed, Steve honored her name at a Ravitz ShopRite golf outing, and he asked me to make a speech on behalf of our family. He also created a memorial for her outside of one of the stores. The quiet but meaningful acts of kindness that Steve showed to our family will never be forgotten. Steve was respected by both his family, who worked alongside of him in the business, and his employees alike. Remarkably, he knew all of his employees by name. Early in his career, he was known for being intense and strict, but fair. He held everyone accountable for their responsibilities. His advice was coveted, but it had to be earned. Steve never hesitated to give the shirt off his back for others. The mentality of working hard and giving to others is a lasting piece of his legacy. He expected the same from his children, and he instilled in them the meaning for grit and dedication. He always took care of his family, friends, and our community, and never asked for anything in return. Sean and Brett, would you please join me on the stage to accept the first ever Steve Ravitz Lifetime Achievement Award, which we are proud to give to your father of blessed memory.
We cannot begin to talk about my dad without first thanking our family, our friends, and people in the community for the amount of support we have received. Stories, jokes, interactions, there have been countless. I have received handwritten letters, emails, texts, you name it. When I tell you how nice it is to hear, words can't explain. In my eulogy, I referred to it as being shielded by my father's humanity. in the sense that we are far from the only family that has lost a loved one to COVID. But as sad as I was and as much as I miss him now, I just felt and still feel so grateful and proud. If I could talk to my dad right now, what would we talk about? Well, I think he would definitely point out that I ran out of Zamek Challah for Rosh Hashanah. As I stand here now and I reflect on my last conversations with him and messages from him, because even in his retirement, and especially in what would be his final days, he never stopped leading, inspiring, and especially caring for us individually and as a group. This past spring, it's no secret that our business was pushed to its absolute limits. Long days, sleepless nights. My dad called me every other day just to check in. He couldn't be in the stores for obvious reasons, so he wanted to hear the latest. We take very personally the conditions of our stores. He knew this was taking a toll on me. That's when the calls changed a little bit. After I told him a few crazy stories, he would quickly move to, "Are you okay?" In a way that he wasn't really looking to hear about the work challenges anymore. The first, "Are you okay?" stopped me in my tracks. It's not something I will forget. Each time I told him I'm fine. One Wednesday afternoon, I couldn't think anymore. So I went home just to sleep. 4 hours later, when I woke up, my dad called to check in. He asked how the day went. I told him I had to stop, I had to sleep. In as concerned and caring of a voice that I have heard, he told me that he was relieved that I was able to rest. Soon after, in what would become the last email my dad would send to our entire company, he wrote, "Wow, I'm so proud of you. I have led this company for many years, but have never been more proud. You have done an amazing job serving our neighbors, but more importantly, serving and supporting each other." He went on to apologize for not being there with us on the front lines. He said, "I really miss seeing all of you and extending my thanks in person. I will see you soon." I have learned that support is so important. Lauren, Haley, and Jordana, I couldn't have gotten through all things COVID, let alone the heartbreak of losing my dad, your father-in-law, and Poppy without you. My mom, just knowing my mom was there, I know I have trouble talking about it, but it feels good to know that I can. This award in my dad's memory is so well deserved. I'm at a loss for words thinking about the fact that the award will be named after him too. What an amazing legacy. On behalf of the Ravitz family, we want to thank the JCC, the board, the committee, and everyone responsible for this honor. To Brian Adler, although I jokingly complain about how I basically work for you, I thank you for your partnership, and I know how much respect you had for my dad. Thank you for always taking such good care of us. A quote that caught my ear on a show that you won't believe, The Walking Dead. "Nothing can take the place of someone you love being gone. That doesn't mean that everything that follows is going to break your heart. This experience has been really difficult, filled with highs like tonight, and lows that come and go out of nowhere. It will never go away, and I wouldn't want it to. I want to learn to live with it. Great honors like tonight is what will make that so. It really means so much more than I can express." At the end of my dad's email to our company, he closed with, "As I am writing this note and listening to music, Joe Cocker's famous song just came on. Can I get a little help from my friends?" I have, and we have too. Thank you.
First, congratulations to Amy and Brett and to Melody on your awards. Your stories are an inspiration to our community, and your honors are well-deserved. And congrats to Andy and to Jason on another great evening under these circumstances. One of my most cherished memories I shared with my dad was on October 28th, 2008, when we got to watch our Phillies bring home a championship for the first time in 25 years. Sports have a way of bringing us all together, so Joe, no pressure. When you bring home another championship to our beloved Fightins, I'll get to relive that memory of my dad all over again. So thank you for keynoting tonight's event. I thought it would be unique to also use my dad's words tonight. In an interview he gave just over 5 years ago to Mike Perlow, he asked him about his legacy. He left no doubt what he thought was his greatest achievement. Quote, "My finest work is my children. They make me proud every single second of every single day." He also said, "I don't remember many of the great things that I've done, but I can't forget the bad. We need to encourage our kids to fail," unquote. As the leader of our family, our company, or any nonprofit he served, he was always the biggest cheerleader and mentor. He pushed through failure as those learnings would ultimately lead to success. What might you not know about Steve? Well, my dad lived a great life and was successful by any measure. But behind that big smile and gigantic personality in the stores and around town, there was a man who battled depression and anxiety his entire life. So later in life, he decided he didn't want to just put up a good front and hide behind a mask. So he took pride in helping the smallest of groups, a group where the donation and time mattered. Big grants weren't nice for a great photo, but he genuinely wanted to help. So after a string of teen suicides that crushed our community, my dad couldn't sit on the sidelines. He began teaching a class on mental health at our Cherry Hill high schools. He was the keynote speaker at high school assemblies. His message, "Suicide is not the answer," as he was able to verbalize his own battles. As he spoke, he could hear people sobbing. Weeks later, the phone rang, and it was a guidance counselor. She said, quote, in his words, "You saved your one child. You did it." He bawled. He couldn't believe it. And I got to see it. My dad chronicled all of this in what I describe as a 40-minute video diary. And I watched it last week for the first time, and a wave of new emotion came over me to think of the magnitude of that achievement. That's what the Steve Ravitz Lifetime Achievement is all about. He was beloved by most who knew him, definitely not all, and I miss those stories that he would tell of those he may have rubbed the wrong way. Closure of his passing remains elusive. The waves of emotion still overcome us on a daily basis, but we're left with a legacy of a man whose achievements matched his personality, a man who lived his life always looking to the next random act of kindness he could perform. Debbie, Amanda, Sophie, and Luke, your relationships with Poppy reinforce that his legacy will survive generations. So on behalf of our entire family, including Andrew and Jesse, Remy, Brett, and Dylan Strauss, David, and Ronnie, we are honored to accept the Lifetime Achievement Award and humbled that the award will be named in his honor. Thank you.
Sean, Brett, that was beautifully done. You honor your father beautifully. Well done. Jason Ravitz, the Vice President of the Ravitz Family ShopRite. Jason, please come back because you have a very, very special guest to introduce. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Ravitz.
If you told me last year at this time that I'd be up here, and I'm not reading like the speech yet, but if you told me last year when we had this event, I think I did the Lifetime Achievement Award maybe for Donna. I'm not remembering the years, Donna Rose. I never in a million years would think we'd be here tonight in a pandemic like this room, the other room, the gym's usually 600-700 people, let alone talking about accepting an award on behalf of our father who's not here anymore. And I just want to echo what my brother said. On behalf of my kids, Jesse and Andrew, and myself. It's bittersweet is the only thing I can say. This has not been an easy 8 or 9 months for anyone. Speechless. I mean, I hope next year we can do this in the regular gym, and that our family is not in a unique club with about 230,000 people who have passed away due to COVID. I really hope that as a country that we can get through this, and as a community that we can get through this, and I think we can. And I was texting with a couple of my colleagues in Voorhees, political colleagues, and I said, I don't know if I can go through this again in the winter if we, have the same kind of problems. And then I thought to myself, immediately, it was like my father was talking in my ear, and I texted everybody that my dad would pretty much tell us all, you guys are the leaders, everybody in this room and everybody who was on my text thread, suck it up, get to work, get everybody healthy, and get through this, and take care of the community, and take care of New Jersey, and take care of the Delaware Valley, take care of Philadelphia, which was his adopted home, and we thank the people. My dad, the 5 years or so that he lived in Philadelphia were some of the best years of his life. So, and he had that tattoo put on that said no regrets. And I don't think anybody in my family has any, there's no, besides having no closure and not being able to process this properly and grieve properly, my dad had no regrets, and we had no regrets with him. And those of you guys that knew him, I mean, I see everybody here. I don't know who's on Zoom, but from Brett and Andy, who, our families go way back, and, business relationships. And, I remember when your guys' dad and my dad would, fight about prices of hand jacks and when they break, and then that got passed down to me and Brad and me and Andy and then Sean. And I have friends here from growing up all through school, through elementary school and beyond, and then our Eagles tailgate group that's here. I'm just happy that as many people as possible really knew him, and that really helped us hearing the stories. And I don't know. I'm gonna move on. I first want to wish Mazel Tov to Marcy on being installed as president of the JCC. I can't really see because of the glare really well, but if that, yeah. And then I was on the board for, I think, I hit my term limits and they kicked me out. And I also want to wish Mazel Tov to my good friend and colleague, Harry Platt, for being installed as Federation president. Harry and his family is another family that, my grandfather goes back, grandmother go back, my dad's parents go back with Harry's family in Cherry Hill. To say that Harry and his dad and his sister have been supportive of my family through all this is an understatement. So I want to congratulate Harry, but thank him personally. I want to Mazel tov to Melody, Diaz. I really can't see. I know that my niece Sophie and you went to high school for a few years together. Sophie graduated, and I think you're still there. And you guys were really good friends from BYO, I think. And I think that's really cool that that Sophie can be here for her friend. And I want to thank Melody's mom, Heidi. The funny thing for me, I didn't even see the funny thing for me, the ironic thing that we talk about is we ran against each other in a brutal campaign. And I will tell, Heidi's a doctor, risks her butt on a daily basis working. And she, probably the minute she found out, she got to me, and pretty much said, we're letting bygones be bygones. This is way more important. And she's helped me through this whole thing as well from either a medical perspective, emotional perspective, and just being a friend. So thank you very much, and Mazel tov to your family. It's great to honor a Voorhees kid and an Eastern kid. We got a few of them at that table over there. To the Breslows, I was talking to Amy the other day, and I mentioned that it was like a mic drop moment for those of us on that Zoom call when their name was mentioned. There was silence. Silence is golden in that situation when you're not debating who should get that People's Choice Award. And unfortunately, or fortunately, Amy and I, when Brett was in the hospital and I read about it, I reached out for Amy and just offered anything I could do for her or we could do, or if they need like shop right from home when you couldn't get a slot, and anything. And with all that Amy was going through while Brett was on that ventilator at Cooper, Amy took the time pretty much every night to explain to me in layman's terms what all the readings and stuff were on my dad that Sean was sending out to our group text amongst our family. And I still remember when Amy sent me a message and my dad had passed away. We knew it wasn't going to end good. And I told Amy, Brett's got to make it now, because we can't have, my dad lived a full life, and Brett deserves to be with his kids and live a long, long more time. And I said, Brett has got to make it. And I prayed to my dad to save Brett. And Amy's been really helpful to me personally in her private business life. She helps our kids with college applications and just keeping all the deadlines in line. And we've been dealing with a lot of that in the midst of all this with my son and her many other clients. And Brett is one tough guy, and Amy is, I don't even know if there's a word to describe what she did to fight for Brett and then fight for other people. And Brett and Amy are like partners in crime with me on Facebook when I'm not in jail. And we, in Facebook jail, we try to get people to wear masks. We try to get people to listen. And that's all we can do. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our ShopRite family, anybody out there from our ShopRite group or our colleagues at Wakefern Food Corporation, that's our wholesale division, or any of our other colleagues, owners. Many supported this event, and without them, like Brett said, there were some days, especially after April 7th, where we could barely function, and our people picked up for us. And, our dad would want us to continue. Everybody here knew him well enough to know he would want us all to move forward and work and get through this. And it killed him to not be able to help us. As his friend Ed, one of his two best friends, told me, and Howie Friedman, you're out there somewhere on Zoom. They both told me that it killed him not to be able to help our company and help Sean, Brett, and I, and Ron. But I know how proud he was of all of us, and I'm sorry to take up this time. On to something a little happier than that. We can all agree in this room that the 2008 Phillies season was one of our favorite, led by Charlie Manuel and a cast of homegrown stars like Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Cole Hamels, who we had at one of our sports awards after the Phillies won the World Series, along with Shane Victorino. The Phillies brought back to Philadelphia a title we had not seen in 30 years. The 08 team was not assembled overnight, but was the product of good drafts, a good farm system, some timely free agent signings, and a manager who believed in his players and earned their respect. Fast forward to the 2020 season, which was a strange one. Just like it is strange for me to look out and see, I don't know how many people we have here, but no more than 50, probably less. When we're normally looking at 600 or 700, it must have been the same thing for the team and the teams to play. I can't even imagine playing in front of a bunch of placards and not having that guy that sits like behind the Phillies dugout making noise and yelling at the pitchers and whistling. But this year was strange and shortened. But we can see through young players like Aaron Nola, Alex Baum, Spencer Howard are going to look for years to come. Bryce Harper is legit, played as you know what off this year, and we have a new manager to look up to. No pressure, Coach Girardi, but we're ready for another parade down Broad Street. The last one, for those that were there, was quite fun. I think it took us 4 hours to get home from, Sean, Brett, and I to get home from Citizens Bank Park, and we missed Halloween, I think, that year. And our kids were young. Joe played for the Chicago Cubs, Colorado Rockies, New York Yankees, and the St. Louis Cardinals. I remember vividly cursing at the TV when you played for the Cubs. I don't really recall much about the Rockies and the Cardinals, but the Yankees, obviously, I do too. The Yankees were mad at you about still. During a 15-year big league playing career, Girardi won 3 World Series championships with the Yankees in the 1990s and served as the catcher as well for Doc Gooden's no-hitter and David Cohn's perfect game. Tonight's not the night to make jokes about David Cohen and some of that stuff that I'm sure you know all too well about, but he was one of my favorite players to hear stories about, more on the Mets, I think. After his playing career ended, Girardi became the Yankees bench coach in 2005. In 2006, he managed the Florida Marlins and was named National League Manager of the Year, though he was let go after that season. Girardi managed the Yankees from 2008 to 2017, and he beat the Phillies in the 2009 World Series and broke our hearts. And I think A-Rod or Jeter jacked a home run into the ShopRite logo that was on the brick wall by Harry Zakay. And it's not there anymore, but I remember that too. He served as an analyst for MLB Network and Fox Sports. Sorry, and I'm shaking. But now he gets to come to work every day in the red pinstripes and is manager of our hometown Philadelphia Phillies. Joe, thank you for coming to Cherry Hill tonight, and we are looking very much forward to hearing from you. I want to stay. I don't want to. I'm staying up.
I can see who the comedian of the family is. Every family has one, right? So when I asked Brian, you know, what would you like me to speak on, he talked to me about the influences that sports have had on my life. But I can't start without saying to Jason and Sean and Brett that all people are created different. And I can't begin to understand what you three boys are going through right now, right? But I've lost a mother too early. I've lost a father. And I would tell you that even though your father isn't physically present, he's here more now than he's ever been because he's in your heart. And he's in your heart forever. So you got someone special. So I just wanted to share that. But my baseball background goes back a long ways. I grew up in Peoria, Illinois. I was the fourth of 5 children, 2 older brothers, an older sister. And for all you sisters that have brothers, I'm still apologizing to my sister how we treated her many years ago. And I had a younger brother. Education was the number one thing. My mother was a social worker, like Amy, and education was stressed. My father worked 3 jobs to give us the best life that he could give us, to put us in private schools. My mother was a child psychologist. I played football, basketball, and baseball. Brett, my first love was football, but 5'10" short quarterbacks don't go very far in life. So I had to pursue my second passion, which was baseball. But the thing that sports did for me is it gave me so many things. It taught me how to compete. It taught me how to persevere. There were failures along the way. I was cut from teams. I was told I wasn't good enough, that I needed a haircut from one coach who recruited me. Believe that? It taught me how to communicate. It gave me confidence in life. And it gave me a team that became a band of brothers that were there for me always during difficult times. It gave me an opportunity to get a great education. I went to Northwestern. I'm going to ask you, Melody, where are you going? I heard you said you're going to school in Chicago.
The University of Chicago.
Good for you. Great program, great school. So it gave me a chance to play baseball at a real high learning place. It helped me see the world. Got to see Japan and Korea, South America, Central America, the Caribbean islands, Canada. I mean, I got to go all over Europe to do camps. But the most important thing that it did in my life is it gave me a platform. It gave me a platform to talk about things that I believe that are important in life. And I'm going to tell you, I think that there are 2 things in life that we can't live without. And I think we have 3 great examples of people who understand that in this room. The 2 things we can't live without is not food and water. It's love and hope. I'm really passionate about this because when I was 13 years old, my mother was given 3 months to live. Turned our family upside down. She lived 6 years. She fought cancer and she fought it hard. She said before she died, she wanted to see her 2 sons get into med school. That wasn't me. I chose a different route. And my sister graduate college. You see, she missed my sister's high school graduation because she was at Mayo Clinic getting treatment. So during that whole time, my mom worked. You know, she was a child psychologist. She continued to work, provide for us to help my father. But 1 month after those 3 things happened in the month of May of 1984, my mother died in June. You see, my mother had hope. She wanted to see something. She wanted to make sure that her kids were accomplished. And she saw that and she passed. Well, Mr. Ravitz, you were no different. You were much more than a supermarket owner. Over 30 years ago, you did an interview, and you were quoted as saying, "Throughout life, we're called upon to make a difference." And he did. There were so many examples of how Mr. Ravitz gave love and hope. He sent food to a war-torn country of Kosovo. No connection. He gave the people in Kosovo hope. Think about when food is your hope, how much you must be struggling. That's compassion. That's love. Love is compassion. You talked about how your father dealt with depression, right? The people that we love are compassionate. They're authentic. Your father was authentic. He didn't hide from that. He shared that with other people and saved probably many, many lives. Because if your father saved one life, there's a good chance that that life that he saved another and saved another. See, you can't love people if you're not authentic. And he was. He also provided food for a lot of the less fortunate people in this area because he cared and he wanted people to have a better life. You see, there are a number of occasions that he raised money to help people. But it's not always about the money. It's about the time and the effort that he shared. I understand your father was down in the Rittenhouse Square area, right? And he would go to Del Frisco's and leave monstrous tips to people that were struggling. Rittenhouse is beautiful, but there's a lot of people struggling down there, and your father recognized that. Your father was a great example of what we're supposed to be in life, and you should be very proud. Mr. Breslow, I think the ultimate example of selflessness is when you choose to serve our country, because you never know when your time is going to be called upon. And one of the great things about living in this country, and I lived through 9/11 like all of you did here, is that I feel pretty safe here. And it's because of the men and women that serve our country. You see, life is a series of challenges, successes, failures, just like sports. We need to teach our youth how to persevere. Keep moving forward. Persevering instead of always rescuing our kids. We need to teach our youth how to rely on each other. This is so important, what they're called as life's teammates. Brett spent over 50 days in the hospital, 19 days in a coma, on a ventilator, and he fought, and he fought, and he fought. And isn't that what life is all about? Life is not easy. No one ever guaranteed that this life was going to be easy. Well, Brett, you were a great example of how to fight. And I love, and I told you this is my passion, that you're a volunteer football coach. Because so many kids need to be taught about toughness and perseverance. The importance of doing your job each play. You see, in football, if you do your job each play, we score a touchdown. And defensively, you never get a yard. Accountability. How to handle success and failure. To turn the page and move on to the next play. Isn't that what life's about? Turning the page and moving on to the next play? Turning the page and moving on to the next serve? My wife is a tennis buff, and it's on our TV 24/7. So, I hope you do very well. And how to be there for each other and communicate. But I'm sure at times you were a father figure to these boys. Think about how important that is. And a father, what do we seek from our fathers? We seek approval. When we get that approval, we feel so good about ourselves. We feel loved. We feel that there's hope. I'm sure their football players talk about you fondly all the time. When kids have fun and compete and have success, they gain confidence. They build relationships. Again, they learn how to fail and feel good about themselves and turn and help each other out. How many of you saw the Indiana Penn State celebration where Coach Tom Allen was speaking? And Indiana won in overtime, and he chose to go for 2 points in the overtime to win it on the first overtime. And you see, Billy Crystal said in the show 700 Sundays, if you've never seen it, it's fantastic, that you'll never truly be successful until you have someone who loves you, who says, I believe in you. And this coach said, I believe in you kids. And that quarterback on the 2-point conversion got in by that far. And it's still a question whether he got in. But when he ran in and was given his after the game speech, he's telling them this and this. And one boy yells, "We love you, Coach." Brett, they love you. Your players love you. And I look forward to you getting back on the field and making a difference because you're giving those kids love and hope. Can I also give a little shout out to Amy? Behind every good man, there's a great woman. We all know that. We can say it's not true, man, but we know that, right? Amy, you hold a special place in my heart because you did what my mother did. She had a master's in social work. You started that plasma program. How you beat you got the state of New Jersey to agree, I don't know. Maybe you should be coaching some of these teams that play in New Jersey. You raised money for iPads for patients so they could stay connected. And let me tell you a little story about a couple that lives in our neighborhood. They were 92 years old. Michael and Helen. They had been married for over 60 years. They were from the East Coast and they had moved down to Florida. And we would see Michael walking every day. And Michael's wife had fallen in April and had a stroke and had fallen and was partially paralyzed, and she had to be put in the hospital. Michael had never been a night without his wife, and he couldn't go see her. And his kids got an iPad, and they were able to communicate every day. And she was there for about 2.5, 3 months. She came home, and Michael died a month later. But without people caring like Amy does, that people can communicate, Michael probably would have died earlier if he couldn't have seen his wife. You see, our lives have been turned upside down. Nothing is normal. We sit here with masks. We sit here, we're away from our loved ones a lot. We're away from the outside. And this communication is so important that we stay connected to each other because no one ever gets better in isolation. Name one thing that gets better in isolation. Nothing. We need each other. And Amy, God bless you for raising all that money so people could stay connected. Finally, Melody. Wow. You're an impressive young lady. You see, leaders are servants. And that's exactly what you are. You serve other people. You're the captain of your tennis team, but you're much more than that. You're much more than that. Man, to win a gold, silver, bronze medal, I hope the government didn't tax you on those. You work off the court, displays love and hope and really great leadership. You volunteered since the 8th grade at the BBYO, teaching kids about social injustice and leadership. But most important, the volunteer work that you do at Weissman Hospital is absolutely incredible. It shows an amazing amount of strength, what you do there. You give your time to an inpatient program of kids that are too sick to come home. Do you know how difficult it is to see sick children? That's special. And please, never lose that. And your mom's an ER doc? Wow, you're crazy, right? The things that you see on a daily basis, but you're giving kids so much love, kids something to look forward to. My favorite commercial on TV today is, have you seen the commercial where the nurse walks in and says, and the little girl says, "Treatment again," and she sticks her arm out? The dog comes in, right? And her whole face changes. I imagine when you walk into that room, those kids light up. God bless you. So what's my point? Sorry I'm emotional, but this is important to me. This is my platform. Is that we need to give love and hope to everyone. And it starts in your little community that you're doing a great job. But don't lose focus. Don't lose faith. Continue to do it. Never forget that life is not about you. I believe life is about how we can make someone else's life better, how we can give them love and hope. And just think, if you change one person's life, and that person in turn changes 2 people's lives, and those 2 change 4, and you know how it goes. Think about how impactful that is in our lives. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak for you. I thank you for the people that were honored tonight and the great work that you're doing. And I'm just here to do and talk about whatever you want to talk about. It's question and answers, baseball, but it's an honor to be here and to see a community that is like this, because that's what we all need to do and find a way to do.
Joe, thank you so much. This is my...
We got to get Jason back up here because he's the life. You know, Jason, I brought everybody down, right?
I was just going to say, I've been involved in this committee since its inception about 10 years ago, and that was by far the most meaningful speech that we've had yet, and I was just blown away. So much so, I don't even have the heart to ask you the question about the bullpen. We're not even going to hit that one tonight.
You know, I talked about some of life's struggles, right? So I lost my mom when she was 19. I went back to school. I went home to the funeral. I got actually stopped in Pennsylvania speeding to get home to see my mom before she passed, right? And I saw my mom take her last breath. And then I went back out to the Cape Cod League and played. And I really never dealt with my mother's death, right? So proceeded to sign with the Cubs, right? And this is my point about women having infinite wisdom. And I went and played with the Cubs. I played my first half season at home. I was the only guy making $700 a month and saving money because I was living with my father. And he would make me breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it was a great time with my father. But then the next year I went to Winston-Salem to play, and I was doing great, and I was hitting over 300, and my grandfather died, and I decided I was going to go home and give up baseball. I was going to go home and be an industrial engineer because I felt like I played to keep my mom alive, and now that my mom was gone, why was I playing? And my wife made me realize that God had given me a gift, and one day it would be my platform. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you. And I would tell you, Amy, as a young girl, continue to persevere and continue to share the wisdom that you have, because I think that you're going to make a difference in a lot of people's lives.
Great. Okay, so if it's okay with you, we do have some questions.
Yeah.
And I have some prepared questions, but if anyone in the audience has a question, just please raise your hand. I'll be
The
happy
prepared ones that are dangerous.
All right, so the first question. You've won World Series rings as a player and as a coach. There are so many components to a baseball team. What's the one cylinder that has to be running at optimal capacity down the stretch in October?
Well, I believe you win with a bullpen. I really do. Starting pitching is really important, but I believe you win with a bullpen because you can't afford to lose any games that you're supposed to win, and you have to find a way to shut other teams down to be able to come back. So I would say your bullpen.
I'll ask something. It's hard enough to go through a professional sports season, especially baseball with all the games and spring training. With all the noise and the fear on the outside, and you've spent so much time in New York, now Philly, New Jersey. We were and might be the epicenter of this again. Were you scared? Were the players scared? How did you even come to play baseball?
You know, it was interesting. We had a lot of discussions, and we continued to educate our players and warn our players. And the one thing that I told them, I said, look, if you get it, the player, you're probably going to be fine. But here's the problem. If you're careless and you bring it into our clubhouse, you jeopardize shutting down our season. You jeopardize giving it to one of the other guy's pregnant wives. You jeopardize giving it to one of the guy's parents who may have a condition, a pre-existing condition. We have a player in here who has a pre-existing condition. It's not about you. It's about staying healthy. And we were lucky. We were basically in a bubble, right? I would wake up. The only place I went, Starbucks to get a cup of coffee, and the grocery store. And everything else was done at the ballpark. I ate there, basically everything. And I would come back to my apartment. And I remember saying, you know, Brett, you'd be proud of me, that I was in this apartment building, and a number of times I saw this family walking around without masks. And I'm thinking, okay, put a mask on, right? Put a mask. I can't take it into my clubhouse. So they come to get on the elevator. I said, nope, you're not getting on. So I probably appeared to be a jerk, but I didn't care because, again, it was not about me. And I had to convince the players every day it was not about them. And they were really good. I mean, there were times they would ask me to do stupid things, and I would say, no, that's stupid, right? And we're not going to allow you to do it. Like they'd want to go play golf and get in cars. And no, we'll play golf at home. You can play golf at home and you can do that. But we're not going to do it in certain places on the road because you got to get in rental cars, and we're not taking that chance. So they were really good about it. I mean, we had cases which probably helped us in between the camps and saw how quickly it spread. So it really helped us. It educated us.
Joe, this year with the shortened schedule, there were some rule changes that were experimented with, such as the DH in the National League, relief pitchers needing to face at least 3 batters, runner on second in extra innings. Which rule changes do you hope will remain, and which do you hope will never return?
Okay, I'm a traditionalist, so for all you older gentlemen out there that get mad at me about saying this, I hope there's a DH in both leagues. Here's why. Too many pitchers get hurt because they're not athletes half the time. They can't hit, they can't bunt, their fingers get broke, they pull their rib cage, and then they can't pitch. So I think it hurts our game when they hit. I do like the extra inning rule just for the season because I think what it does is it keeps your stars on the field more because you don't play 18-inning games and have to give a guy a day off. And it also keeps your bullpen intact where you don't have to send people down. The minimum 3-hitter rule is the dumbest rule. If the commissioner is listening, it's the dumbest rule that we've ever put in because it changes the strategy of the game. And I hope he changes that. And from what I saw, the games were not sped up. During the season, I don't mind that because physically the stars are on the field more. You know, it's not playing 18 and then if you go extra innings, it's 22. You know, they're on the field more. And that's like, I've had people yell at me, they'll come to a game and that guy's getting a day off and they came to see that guy and people yell at me. I don't need that.
Joe, you caught for maybe the greatest closer of all time, Mariano Rivera.
Yes.
What was it about a closer like him that set him so far apart from others?
Mariano had a gift of a cutter, and he mastered it. That's what set him apart. His command was impeccable. He was a great athlete, which I think helped him. I would argue that he was our best center fielder that never played. But he had the ability to turn the page. And Amy, Melody, I tell you, always have fun when you play this game, right? He always had fun. He laughed, right? He laughed and had fun. And his sports are meant to be fun. And when we have fun, we relax more. And Mo was probably the most relaxed guy I ever saw.
Okay. All right, this will probably be the toughest one I'll ask. But as a former catcher, can you please describe the importance of that position to the team and specifically to the pitching staff? And I'm sure you can guess my follow-up question.
So I think the catcher has so much responsibility because, first of all, you're the only player that everybody sees, right? Pitcher doesn't see the shortstop behind him, you know. Shortstops, you know, in a sense, you're the only pitcher that everyone sees you. So they see your energy, they see your attitude. You're also very important to the pitcher because your job is to get the best out of them that day. And they have to know that's what you're trying to do. You're not worried about your at-bats. You're worried about getting them as far through that game as you can possibly get them. You're an extension of the game plan the whole day. Because you have a game plan. It never goes to script, but you have one. And so I think the catcher is probably the most important player on the field besides the pitcher. And you know, so I'm a little biased. You know, I played that position, but they're really important.
All right, so the follow-up question.
Is JT coming back? Well, if it was my money, yeah, you know, so here's the tough thing about, I don't think any of us are really certain what's going to happen in the next couple of months. And I think it's going to be a really slow free agent period because I think owners are going to wait as long as they can to see if we get a vaccine, because a vaccine would probably mean more fans in the stand, which changes the financial, you know, situation for all clubs. So there are 30 clubs that want JT. And I can tell you, no one wants him worse than the Philadelphia Phillies. We love him.
Skip, first, welcome to Philadelphia.
Thank you.
It's nice to see someone, you know, that played and managed and won in New York use their platform to really speak their heart. So
thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for that. My question is, kind of goes to the Yankees. Winning there is extremely tough, I'm sure, and dealing with all those personalities and all those guys, those, you know, the A-Rods, the Jeters. And
it's interesting.
Being able to bring them all together, those type of players. Love to know how you did it.
Well, thank you. I loved them, right? The ultimate relationship is based on love and trust, right? That's what it's based on. So they have to trust you. And you have to earn their trust. You know, you can't just say, trust me. No, you got to earn their trust. And that's what I set out to do every year. And the players know that I care more about them as people than I do as players, because playing's only going to last for so long. And they're going to be people for a lot longer. So I truly care about our players, and I'm going to fight for them, and I'm going to protect them. And that's, you know, and sometimes I would get called out, you know, for not getting all over players. I just never did it publicly because this world is hard enough. Social media is hard enough, right? I mean, I grew up in a world where if I screwed up, a few people knew. If kids screw up today, everybody knows, right? And it's hard, and it's a lot of pressure, and that's why there's so much mental anxiety. So I try to take that all away. And everything that happens on the baseball field, if it's failure, it's my fault. If it's success, it's because of what they did. And that's how you win them over.
Coach, I have a question that's somewhat related, and I want to thank you also for coming to Cherry Hill and revealing your, you know, humanity first and foremost. My question is specifically about coaching a player like Bryce Harper, who comes to town with a lot of fanfare and pressure because of his salary and because of his accomplishments. How do you work with a player like that so that he can perform in a way that doesn't have, you know, undue pressure placed on him, and just perform to the best of his abilities, going out on the field day in and day out? You know, what do you have to do with a player like that that's under that sort of scrutiny relative to maybe other players?
For players like Bryce, I try to take as much off their plate as I can, you know, if they'll allow me to do it. I try to protect them from themselves. Like, Bryce is a guy that will play every day, and you have to convince him not to play some days, because in the long run, it's going to be beneficial. And he only looks at it that day. He believes that he's paid to work, and he's going to go to work every day. But some days, he needs to take a day off. So it takes time to build that relationship. And the unfortunate thing about this year is it was started, stopped, started again, and we didn't have a full season. But I feel like I have a much better handle on Bryce Harper going into next year than I did at any point this year. And I love his heart. I mean, this guy wants to play. He'll run out there when he shouldn't be running out there. He's going to play hard and do everything he can to win. And sometimes I think Bryce actually tries too hard. And I love that about him because he really cares. But it's just, most of it is me making sure that he's physically okay, because he'll go out there every day.
Coach, this year's World Series featured one of the largest payrolls and one of the smallest payrolls in baseball. What is it about the coaching, scouting, farm systems of these small market teams that allow them to compete at the highest level?
So it does somewhat go hand in hand, but there's a myth out there that when your payroll is not high, that you're not talented. It just, a lot of times it means that you're just not really experienced. So there's a lot of young talent in this world that play at a very high level that just aren't making a lot of money. And if you were to put that team on the open market, it would be a much higher payroll. But some of these teams are very good at finding players and finding one strength that they have and using it in the right situations and being able to put complementary players around other people or in their team. So if this guy's strength is not this guy's, but he has a strength that's not that guy, they platoon him or they use him in different situations. Tampa Bay is better than that than anyone. And it's what all clubs are striving to do. And you're looking for that, that diamond in the rough or that needle in a haystack. Tampa's really good at it. And all clubs are trying to catch them in doing it. But Tampa was extremely talented. You put some of those relievers on the open market, they're all making $15 million a year. But because they have under 3 years of service, they're not. And I had a team like that in Florida. We were really young. We had 23 rookies in that season in 2006. And we were 20 games under because they were kids and weren't sure of themselves. We got back to 500, and we were in the playoff run until the last week. They were really talented. Some of those guys that I managed in 2006 are still playing today. That's how good they are. One of them's a sure Hall of Famer, but they didn't realize. And then once they figure out they're good, they're dangerous because kids have no fear, and they never run out of energy.
Coach, thank you very much for coming tonight. You
You're
are,
welcome.
in my opinion at least, I think I'm speaking on behalf of probably everybody in this room, probably the most sincere speaker I've seen in the history of the Sports Award Dinner, so thank you. I have two questions. First question is basketball related. LeBron James or Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan.
Thank you.
I'll get an argument from my son, but I won't from my daughter, who's a basketball player who plays in the summers up here because there's such good basketball up here. But there was something about Michael. He was an assassin, and he was fantastic. What's the other commercial or the other question?
So my other question is, in your history of just baseball and coaching, and who would you say is the one player or person that has had the most influence on your career personally, like to your heart? And also, I guess, the follow-up to that is, who's the best player you ever coached?
Okay, so the person that probably had the most influence on me as a player, that's really a tough question. I'm going to say my mom. My mom was a tough, tiny lady that always, and it really was my mom and dad. And my dad was a man that taught me to finish the job. No matter what the circumstance was, finish the job. And to this day, they've had so much influence on my life. And I'm starting to notice I look more and more like my father all the time, which means that I'm getting really old, but that's okay. The greatest player I ever managed, wow, You know, some of the guys I managed in their prime, some of them it was beyond their prime. Some of them I caught in their prime. Mariano Rivera was awesome. You know, A-Rod, Jeet. I had the pleasure of managing a young Miguel Cabrera, and I thought for a young player, he may have been the smartest player I was ever around. So there were some pretty good ones. I had a chance to catch Greg Maddox. There were a lot. I was fortunate. I was blessed because I got to live like a storybook, you know. I had a dream to play for the Chicago Cubs. I wrote an essay in 3rd grade, and that's who I was drafted by and made it to the big leagues with, and used to go to Wrigley Field as a kid. So, and you think about the organizations I got to play for, the Cubs, and then I went to the Rockies, who drew over 4 million people their first 2 years in existence. And I went to the Yankees and back to the Cubs and the Cardinals, so I was blessed. I mean, I've really been blessed in my life.
Okay, Coach, last question. You've coached in small markets like Florida, the largest market in New York, and now Philadelphia. How would you describe the pressure to win so far in Philly, and how has this community embraced you?
The pressure from within, no matter where I'm at, comes from within. You know, I was explaining to someone today what it's like to live in my household. I have 3 kids, girl, boy, girl, extremely competitive, all of them. I have a wife that's extremely competitive, and I'm probably the worst. So every card game turns into a fight. Every pool game turns into a fight. It's ridiculous. So that comes from within. The fans in Philly have been great to me. And I feel a responsibility to them, you know, because they have opened me. They have welcomed me with open arms. They've been fantastic to me. And we need to deliver to them, because without the fans, there is no baseball. We tried that this year. It stunk. I mean, the cutouts were good, and the cutouts never yelled at me, but I missed that. You missed that enthusiasm. It's not the same.
I just want to say on behalf of the JCC, this was, you knocked it out of the park. This was the best of all the speeches and presenters we've ever had. And we're very grateful and appreciative you were able to make it tonight. And under these conditions, this event was great. So thank you.
Well, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I'm here. And Melody, if I could give you one more piece of advice, right? We think of East Coast, New York, Philly, cold. Chicago, cold. Chicago's really cold. A lot of layers, a lot of coats, and a lot of Uggs. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank Phillies manager Joe Girardi. I was just thinking about last year with with Joel Embiid sitting up there, not really engaged, or well, we all know what happened. I mean, I have no words. Thank you for the kind words of our father, for my family's dad. He loved, like Sean said, that 08 when the Phillies won the World Series and we all got to be together. I still have pictures in the parking lot from part 2, because everybody remember we got rained out and had to go home. And when Sean said that, I remember talking to my father and my uncle when we were trying to walk out of the Super Bowl win, and you just couldn't get anywhere in that tunnel system in Minneapolis. And I'm just happy my father got to see the Eagles win the Super Bowl. He got to see the Phillies win the World Series. He got to see the Flyers win the Stanley Cup twice. And he got to see the Sixers also win. And he was a big sports fan. And those of you that spent all those years at our tailgates, we did Phillies tailgate. We did doubles, remember, for 08 and 09. We went from the Eagles game in the Lot P for the Citizens Bank Park. So I have no words on behalf of the Diaz family and Melody, and on behalf of the Breslows, Amy and Brett. I mean, thank you for, you're the real deal. That's all I got to say about that. And you're the kind of man that I know my father would have immense respect for. If he heard what you just said, he would have given you an attaboy the entire time. And it's pretty awesome, so thank you. Really quick, I also want to thank Andy Levin. For me, it's awesome to be able to co-chair this event with Andy. I actually told Joe Girardi about when Andy almost had to pound Howard Eskin the night that Chip Kelly was here, and he wanted an interview with Chip because he traded LaShawn McCoy during the Sports Awards. And, and yeah, and Andy, and meanwhile, Andy and Brett are big sponsors of WIP and 97.5. So kind of not the smartest move by Mr. Eskin, who's suffering from COVID, from what I understand. Maybe some humble pie is actually good. But anyway, but I wish him well and wish him the best. Thank you to Andy, and thank you to the committee. Some of you guys are here. Thank you to Brian Adler, wherever Brian is. You're a good man, and when you said you wanted to do this year, I thought we were nuts, but thank you so much. Really quick, on behalf of my father, who one of his passions, as a lot of you guys know, was traveling to Israel, and also, as much as he could take it, visiting some of the concentration camps. And the story goes with him when he would visit Israel that he had his favorite places to go, and he would bring extra money and give them some cash and stuff like that. And the stories he told, and Sean was in Israel with him one time. So last year was the day Kobe Bryant passed away tragically. There was an auction in South Jersey at an auction house. And they were auctioning off, and I put it on Facebook, Nazi memorabilia and stuff that probably killed our ancestors. But then they had these 4 armbands identifying Jews in the ghettos and in the concentration camps. And I've been holding, the pandemic started after that, and then the stuff with our dad and other. So I've been holding these in my office, and I told Brian about it, but I want to donate these tonight on behalf of my family, but in honor of my father, to go up in the Holocaust Museum out front in perpetuity. So these are for you guys in honor of my pop. Thank you, Mark Zumoff, for your continued commitment to the Katz JCC. We're very appreciative of your time, efforts, and enthusiasm. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an incredible evening. Before we close out, I would like to ask Les Cohen, Executive Director of the JCC for a long time, to come up here.
And to all the sponsors and patrons and attendees tonight, please join me in presenting this check to Les in the amount of $150,000. Les, we know these vital dollars will be put to good use.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, on behalf of the JCC and for all of the children that will benefit from these proceeds. We're truly grateful. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jason. We really appreciate it.